Yo, hello everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to a very special live episode. And this is dedicated, as you can see, to Gamera, who is also known as Hero to Children, and of course, the Guardian of the Galaxy. And we are celebrating his 60th anniversary. And as you can see, we've got quite a big panel in front of us today, so there is quite a few guests. We're starting off with Mr. BigBadWolf, Anthony Jordan, Jake Hall, the Kaiju Enigma, DJ Anubis, he's getting his Gamera figures out, Rio Ho, the Professor, Dan Miller, aka.
Good evening.
And then, of course, we'll have a newbie, a new friend of ours today, Mr. Mark Justice.
Thank you for the invite.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for joining and being a part of this today. So, 60 years of Gamera. Who would have thought it? So, let's start off with asking each and every one of you when you first were introduced to Gamera. So, we'll start off with Mr. BigBadWolf.
So when I was first introduced to Gamera, I was just a young kid, probably at the age of 6 or 7, where the internet was becoming a thing. I was already a big Godzilla fan at the time, and I happened to come across this website. I forget what it was called, but like it had all this index, all these movie giant monsters. Like it showed the Kraken from Clash of the Titans. It showed the Rhedosaurus. It showed Daimogen. It showed Pogosaur and a few others, even the T-Rex from The Last Dinosaur. And so when you go into the G part, above Godzilla, I saw something that said Gamera, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Because the first thing you see is a picture of Gamera, where it's like the big goofy eyeballs, the larger-than-life tusk, and I'm like, what is this? And I looked up a bunch of stuff. I'm like, this is pretty much a monster that's so similar to Godzilla, but completely different.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a DVD of him until I was about 9, and was the first Gamera film I got to see was Gamera versus Griron. So that was technically my introduction, was Gamera versus Griron, which to this day, in my mind, it'll always be within the top 10 just because it was my introductory film.
Yeah. Anthony.
I was about 6 or 7, and it was with the 4Kids VHS. I had the original, I had Gamera versus Barugon, and I had Zigra.
Nice. Yeah, Zigra for me was always a unique looking kaiju. Kaiju Enigma, Jake.
I was about, I want to say between 11 and 13. We'll say roughly there. We had just finished moving to Newtown, and I came across a place called Suncoast. Not Suncoast, Sam Goody. And they had an old school like ordering system where they could like you find in a newspaper in a way, kind of similar to that. And I saw one of the Gamera films, and it happened to be Gamera versus Giran. And I was like, Gamera versus Giran? So it sounded interesting. So my parents ordered it for me and on a VHS, and that was my first introduction, like BigBadWolf. That was my first introduction to Gamera. And it wasn't until later on, because on the back of the VHS boxes, it had the multiple other Gameras, like Gamera versus Gauss, and Gamera versus Zigra, along with the original Gamera. And I ended up getting those later on. And it wasn't until I want to say maybe a couple years after I got Gamera Guardian of the Universe on VHS. And that was my first introduction to the Heisei. I didn't realize there was more than one until I happened to look up. So, yeah, that was
Yeah.
my first introduction to Gamera. Was
Nice. How about you, Anubis?
Well, much like with Godzilla, I grew up in the 70s as a young kid. And so going to the theaters on the Saturdays is my dad dropped me and my sisters off. We would go see the movies and whatever. And so it was around the same time. I was probably about 7 or 8. And so along with Godzilla, you'd have the Gamera movies out there. Most of the ones that I remember seeing with versus Girion, Baragon, and Gauss and stuff like that. So that was really kind of like my first introduction to Gamera. But being a big kaiju lover, I took it all in and enjoyed all of it.
Mr. Daniel Miller.
I found out about Gamera when I was around 10 years old. I was on YouTube looking at a lot of Godzilla videos, and on there I found a feature-length version of the English dub of Gamera versus Baragon, which is War of the Monsters, if I'm not mistaken. And I watched it through, although it was a very low resolution video and trying to make out what was going on, but I was like, okay, I'm curious to know more about this. Then in 2013, that was my first visit to the US. I went to a store along the Hollywood Walk called Amoeba Records, where I managed to get the first 6 of the Showa Gamera films on English dub on DVD, along with 2 Shout Factory DVDs of the original and a double bill of Gauss and Virus. And I was able to watch those in much better quality for the first time, and it's like, okay, this is clearly a box office rival to Godzilla, and it's an interesting one. Bring me more.
It's kind of funny how, like with Godzilla, when his second film came out, and he went from Godzilla to Gigantus. Gaius went from being Gaius to Gauss, then back to Gaius.
Yeah.
And then there was this situation where they gave Gamera an extra M in his name, so he was named Gamera for a while.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I remember thinking that was his name, Gamera, because I first was introduced to him with the 2 M's in his name. But then obviously when I found out he was called Gamera, I thought, well, actually Gamera sounds even cooler. So, Mark, when was your first introduction to Gamera?
Like Anubis, we probably watched them on television. It was my first, before there were VHS, before there were DVDs. We lived close enough to Cleveland to where we had the local horror hosts. And on Saturdays, there was a horror host called Superhost. And he would often show kaiju movies. And so that's where I saw most of my Gamera movies. I don't know which the first one was, but it was probably Gauss or Monster X, or technically Jiger. Because those 2 stand out in my earliest of memories. I was probably 4 or 5 watching those. And so, yeah, that's my first memory.
Yeah. I think my first introduction to Gamera was actually through, I think it was, Space Theater 3000, where you had the horse.
Oh, Mystery
Mystery Science Theater, right?
Mystery Science Theater, and I'm sure it was something like Gamera versus Guron. And I just used to think, well, this isn't Godzilla.
I remember watching them on YouTube.
Yeah, I knew of course.
Definitely young if you're watching them on YouTube.
I remember, of course, what you call it, known about Mothra, known about Rodan, like a solo films beyond Godzilla. But in my knowledge, when I was a kid, because of how I was introduced to Godzilla, I just assumed that for a long time he was the only giant kaiju. And then, of course, King Kong, of course. But then slowly, as I got older and I got more fascinated with kaiju in general, outside of Godzilla, I was starting to discover all these new kaiju I hadn't heard of. And when I heard of Gamera through, obviously, Mystery Science Theater, I absolutely fell in love with them. And I think, like I say, I didn't watch the full film because it's more like the guys on that show talking and like, you know, it's more like comedy taking, you know, making fun of the movies and stuff like that. So my first full-fledged film that I actually watched, that was from start to finish, it actually aired on the Sci-Fi channel here in the UK, and it was the first Heisei era film, which of course was Guardians of the Universe, which blew my mind, and I thought, whoa, this is so different to like what I had seen with Godzilla. And of course, a few years ago, Arrow Video decided to bring out the box sets, which, if you can see, I've got the Heisei era box set and I've got the Showa era box set, which has, you know, all of the films from both eras. And I've been a fan ever since. But since we're talking about Gamera, there's all the movies, and not obviously in order there on that poster, but that's every kaiju film that's been made with Gamera. And there's quite a lot to go through. So how we're going to do this is we'll talk about the Showa era, the Heisei era, and then we'll talk about what we'll hope for the future of the franchise. So we'll start off with Mark, since you're our newest guest here. Tell me some of your favourite moments from the Showa era, from the Gamera series.
The Showa kind of hits me in my sweet spot because that's just what I grew up. It's very nostalgic. As silly as it looks, it's just I still feel like a kid. But my two favorite movies of the Showa era were the ones that I'd seen first. So Gauss and Monster X or Jiger. And what I love so much about Jiger, what appealed to me, is that the stories, you know, have, you know, they focus on the kids. Gamera's the friend of all children, you know, and the kids become a major part of the plot. And I wanted to be with these kids in the submarine so bad. I wanted to help revive Gamera, you know, because for me, Gamera was kind of like my friend too, you know, and I wanted to, I wanted them to be healthy, you know. I felt bad, so. So every time I watch that movie, I kind of chuckle like that because I remember being so concerned with Gamera, you know. But I think it wasn't until my 20s that I discovered some of the other ones that because they weren't available or had never been shown on TV or I wasn't aware of them. So that's where I first saw Giron. And I just was watching it with a friend and I thought, oh my goodness, this guy with this big knife, I really, really hope he chops something. And then that first fight with Space Gauss, I'm like, okay, it was like the best moment. We were just laughing because of just the outrageousness of it, you know. So, but I'll pass the baton. Those are some of my best moments from the Showa era.
Just don't hit us with it.
That's right.
And Miller, some of your favourite moments.
Excuse me.
Sorry, yeah, the Showa era.
My favorite Showa era moments, I think at the top would have to be Gamera's first appearance after the Russian aircraft carrying the nuke crashes into the ice after being shot down. You have that really awesome miniature effect shot of the mushroom cloud. Then you have the ice just breaking open and Gamera makes his first appearance. Another favorite moment of mine from the Showa era is when Gamera is on his first rampage throughout Tokyo, just smashing the entire cityscape to pieces. I think throughout the Showa era, some of the fights, particularly the first two with Baragon and Gauss, are some of my favorite ones because even for their time, they're quite brutal looking back on it. I also think that the elements, some of the story elements, especially from Gauss and Baragon, I think are the strongest out of the Showa continuity because afterwards from Gamera versus Viras, you could tell that they were reusing a lot of stock footage just to pad out the runtime, particularly in Viras, which I think was the one that used the most stock footage before Gamera Super Monster in the 80s. But yeah, I think my favorite moments come from the first 3 entries in the Showa era. Then afterwards, I get it. As for children's movies, they're fantastic. They're brilliant, but they do tend to weaken toward the end of the 60s. I do feel.
Yeah. DJ Anubis, some of your favorite moments from the Showa era?
Well, a lot is like Mark. It's kind of funny because I saw it the same way as a kid. It's like you're watching these films and it's different how they approach it versus Godzilla, at least early on. And as a kid, you're looking at like, man, I really want to be them. I want to go in that space capsule and go and visit a planet and befriend Gamera and stuff like that. But then also, as the professor stated, when these films, as you get older, they don't really resonate as much as they once did. But I did have an epiphany while rewatching some of these. I didn't get to all of them, obviously, but I also realized that even though they were so kid-driven, they're also very dark. Like there's a lot of dark moments in these things. I remember seeing a scene from, I think it might be Baragon or something, where the laser comes up. No, I think it's from Gauss, where the laser comes up, hits the helicopter and cuts it in half, and then you can see the people falling out. And I was like, wow.
The part where the Gauss literally reaches down and eats a person and was getting ready to eat the child.
So you've got this thing where these kids are very playful and it's kind of more lighthearted, but then all these other things surrounded it are very dark, even with Gamera losing a limb and stuff like that. So they didn't shy away from any of the blood and destruction that you would see with Gamera being hurt. So it was kind of weird looking back at some of these, but it wasn't really until the 90s when they started doing the other ones that I thought, okay, well, this is more mature. It's a more grown-up approach.
They stayed on one path, whereas in the show era, it's like they couldn't decide on where they wanted to go, and they just went for it.
Yeah.
Jake Hall, some of your favorite moments from the Showa era?
Oh man, there are so many, but just to name the few, like the battle between him and Barugon when they first fight. He uses his jet fire, and then Barugon just freezes him. And as Baragon just kind of uses his horn to just go, then he just punches him and bleeds. Another classic moment is from Zigra, where Tail takes the little chord and starts just going dun 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 dun, dun, like playing the theme to his own song. And then it starts playing, and then destroys Zigra. It's ironic too because I didn't watch these in order at all because I think
I didn't.
Because I think
the order really doesn't matter.
No.
Oh yeah. So I watched Giran, then it was Gauss, then Zigra, then Gamera. And then Barugon, and it wasn't until later on when they released like Virus and Jiger. Jiger was an interesting one. I enjoyed that one. It was interesting because it was a super sonic type creature that had a little laser horn, and it's interesting because it affected Gamera's hearing, but yet it didn't really do much to him. Now, when it did to the humans, it turned them into human skeletons, and then they're just like frozen, like.
Yeah.
So, but all in all, there's just so many favorite moments of mine from each of the Showa films. And like Dan filming said, they use a lot of stock footage in some of them, but they were real bad with Super Monster Gamera because they didn't have enough in the budget. So all they had to do was just use restock footage, which is kind of sad in a way, but they just didn't have the funding.
Didn't the Godzilla Showa era do that as well?
I
It was
think
meant to be with Megalon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was
Never
also-
to the extent of Super Monster.
yeah, but wasn't there that film with on the island with Minya and the little boy and you got
Godzilla's
Gamera.
Revenge.
Oh, God. Oh, the Attack of the
Godzilla's
Monsters.
Revenge.
Godzilla's Revenge is just a stock. It's just a stock.
It's
footage.
just stock footage.
Yeah,
Which-
except
yeah,
for the
I
stuff
find-
with Gabra. Yeah.
What I find the most funny about that one, for all the stock footage they used, they still filmed the new version of the scene where Godzilla was teaching him to spit fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they pretty much replaced the 1967 version with the version of the Godzilla that was in that film.
Suit wise, yeah.
Yeah. So, Anthony Jordan, some of your favorite moments from the Showa era?
Well, mainly just the first film, the opening, for all you hear from the naysayers, oh, he's just a Godzilla ripoff, he's just a Godzilla ripoff. It's the opening of the first one, which does set the tone for the film really good, is pretty much the opening of the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Yeah.
We see the bomb in the Arctic, we see the creature show up. Then like Gamera versus Barugon and Gauss, like Barugon was an interesting one, and it was kind of like surprising. These are kids' movies, yet unlike the Godzilla movies, you actually see the monsters directly target humans, like Barugon eating somebody alive, or the things in Gauss where Gauss wants blood. It's just a very like tonally weird like series because they set out to be more kid friendly, yet these films are also more gruesome than the Godzilla films ever thought about being. So it's just a weird little mishmash of tones. I like some of the early continuity, like Barugon picking up after the first Gamera ended and we see him return to Earth and attack a dam, and the fact that Gamera really wasn't the good monster in that film. He just fought a rival monster. So I said my favorite memories would be within the first 3 films, and they're really out of the Showa series. Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera versus Barugon, and Gamera versus Gauss are the only 3 I tend to revisit, but I still have the whole set and I'm glad to have it.
Yeah. BigBadWolf.
So I will also say though the first 3 would definitely be some of my favorite memories, just because one is the moment where Gamera's rampaging through Tokyo. They're trying to stop him, do everything they can to kill him. And the fun thing is, there's one to where, of course, this is so Showa-esque of a solution that they put him inside a big rocket to shoot him out into space, only for it to not work, and he comes back down even more ticked off than he was before that. But also, when he went to take down that tower, and you saw this child in trouble, that Gamera actually went out of his way to save the kid. That moment, you started to see there was a differentiation between Gamera and Godzilla at that point. Like, there was something more to that monster that wasn't just rampaging. There was something more primal in him.
Yes.
Whereas when we saw in, of course, Barugon and Gauss, we saw monsters target people for once, whereas Toho tries to not do that, in which I don't know why, though I also understand what they're trying to do. But we see monsters completely target people, which makes for a more exciting story and film to watch, because now you're more concerned about the characters because they are actually in more mortal danger than the characters in the Godzilla verse. Because in the Godzilla verse, the only danger they're in is being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Whereas our characters if a monster sees them far away from a good enough distance, that monster's coming after them. They don't have to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They just have to be spotted. And then also, Dan, have you watched Cartoon Network growing up?
Yeah, we had
So there's a cartoon called The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and there's a scene where they go to Japan. I forget the plot to that, but it's all pop culture reference. For one, it's like a robot suit of King Kong's head stuck inside of a volcano because Croc, their version of Gamera, put him in there. And then Croc is also fighting a giant 3-headed cat that spits out fireballs. No, he spits out hairballs. And a giant boss that at some point Croc is getting the crap kicked out of him. He goes, the only thing that can help me is if these kids sing me a song to get me my strength back. And so that was a nod to get. So that was pretty much a nod to Gamera.
Yeah.
Well, as for me, there's a lot of favorite moments of mine in the Gamera series. I really like. My favorite films are Gamera vs. Chaos, and Gamera vs. Guron, but I also have a special soft spot for Gamera vs. Zigra. And there's some parts of Zigra that I really enjoy. Virus of Aras, he for me was always like, when it came to the Shuara, for me he was my least favorite kaiju. Looking at the comments, Jedi's Granville's favorite Shuara Gamera film is Gamera vs. Zigra, which it's one of my favorites as well. And then if we look at Gamera, the design of Gamera in the Showa era. So Gamera himself in the Showa era, one thing I noticed, unlike the Showa era with Godzilla, obviously Toho was, I guess, at the time a much bigger studio with much more, backing and money behind them. So every film had virtually a brand new design for Gamera. But if you look at the Showa era, he pretty much stayed the same throughout the entire series.
Yeah, it is the same suit. They just tweaked it in some places.
Yeah,
mainly the face area.
Yeah,
is where they tweaked it the most.
Yeah.
Everything else pretty much.
Yeah, I
stayed the
have
same.
noticed, like, as the films gone by, you see more and more changes to the face.
like I don't know if it's not Godzilla. Gamera versus Guron, where I think he's jumping on him and his neck and his hands keeps jumping out. I love like the little like quirky things like that in the films, like the Showa era, because I think.
Oh, when he pulled off the gymnastics stunt.
Yeah.
Same film.
Yeah. Or when he's just being repeatedly impaled by Viras, and he's just like, whoa.
Yeah. Before we talk a bit more, I'm just going to read a little bit about Gamera. So, Gamera is a giant monster or kaiju that debuted in the 1965 film Gamera the Giant Monster by Daiei Films. The character and the first film were intended to follow the success of Toho's Godzilla film series, while various staffs have participated in both and related franchises, and the two franchises have influenced each other. The Dai franchise has become a Japanese icon in its own right and one of many representations of Japanese cinema, appearing in a total of 12 films produced by Dai Films and later by Takuma Shoten and Kayakawa Dai Studios, representatively, and various other media such as novels, anime, videos, manga, and cartoons, magazines, video games, television programs, shows, and other merchandise. Gamera has become a pop cultural phenomenon. So, Gamera, for me, in Japan at least, Godzilla is always going to be the number one. He's always going to be the biggest pop culture phenomenon outside of Ultraman, Pokemon, Gundam. all of that good stuff. But when it comes to kaiju, when it comes to Japan, would you guys say he is their second biggest?
Yes.
How do you feel about, like, would you say he is their second top kaiju? Because a lot of people may think it's King Ghidorah. A lot of people might think, I don't know, it's Mothra, Mechagodzilla. I personally like the fact when it comes to Gamera that where Godzilla he's like an anti-hero. He can be a villain, he can be a hero, he can be in the middle.
It
The
just
one,
depends on the circumstance.
yes. But when it comes to Gamera, he's always remained a hero. He's always been a good hero.
Sort of. And now I say that because when you look at that Guardian of the Universe that kicked off the Heisei, or even when you get to Iris, like it's a similar theme that we see from King of the Monsters at the beginning, where they lose somebody because of Godzilla, just because of the aftermath, like the crushing, the buildings falling, the destruction. And so there's like this blame that goes on to Gamera for him just trying to protect the world from these other monsters, and it has casualties. Mm-hmm. So I think in some ways that era of Gamera is still a bit of like an anti-hero. He's not going to be harmful. Godzilla never really was harmful either in Legendary Monsterverse. So
they're
it's
just
more
indifferent of humanity.
Right. Yeah, because they're so big, man. Like we're
it's
just
hard
like
for them not to avoid.
You know?
It's hard for them not to avoid stepping on us, because it's the same when we walk outside. Do we try to avoid ants? No. Do we know they're there? Yes. Do we try to kill them? No. But what are we going to do? We can't tiptoe our way throughout every little Monday activity we do in life.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But back to your point about whether or not Gamera's like, bigger than everyone else. I think he is, because despite the fact that Ghidorah is a big kaiju that people know, if you would ask a normal person who isn't a kaiju fan and bring up Gamera, they would know who Gamera is. They wouldn't know who King Ghidorah is.
Because King Ghidorah, at the end of the day, is part of the Godzilla franchise. So you would have to explain. You would have to say, "Oh, the Godzilla kaiju." Then they're probably, "Oh, I think I know who Ghidorah is now." Whereas if you just mention it, people aren't going to know who that is.
Yeah. Well, certainly in the Showa era, he was definitely a hero. Mm-hmm. So before we move on to the next era, I'm just going to ask you a question. Out of all of the Showa era villains, who is your favorite? So we'll start with BigBadWolf.
Well, let's put it like this. I like Guiron because of his design. He's pretty much a gigantic monster with a giant knife for a head. That pretty much gave an inspiration to Knifehead and Pacific Rim in the bed. Yes. Then there's, of course, Barugon, who's like your typical four-legged dinosaur-like kaiju that can... Isn't it his tongue that releases cold breath, or does he just...
Yes.
Like an icy... Okay, just want to make sure I got that information right. And then, of course, he shoots a rainbow from his back, which is very outlandish for a kaiju to do.
It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's just so outlandish because you look and they're like, wait, what? Because you wonder, how the heck did that happen? Whereas Godzilla's, it just kind of makes sense, or Gamera's weapon, it just kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's cool. But I think I have to go with Guiron, just because in many ways, he's like the Gigan archetype.
Yes. Anthony Jordan? Is he there? We'll come back down. Oh, he is there.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Out of all of the Showa era villains, which was your favorite in the Showa era?
I have to say Barugon. Right. Not just because he was a fun opponent for Gamera, but just because as a whole that movie feels like the closest to the best of the Showa era of Godzilla. I would put that film up there with those. And just listen to the power, we heard someone else mention the cold breath he had, the fact that he is almost more like a chameleon, and that they gave him traits of a more real creature would have. So yeah, Barugon easy.
Jake Hall.
Oh man. Well, I have two. It's Baragon and Zigra. I like them two the best. Uh, I do like Gauss. I mean, because technically Gauss is kind of like the King Ghidorah of Gamera. So, uh, least favorite was Virus. I thought Jiger was a good design, minus her feet was kind of like suction cuppy. Uh, Garen, he's up there. He's Baragon, Zigra, and Garen are my top three favorites.
Cheater.
It's tough with me. So,
What about you, Anubis?
I think one of the scariest ones is Gauss, just because of what it does and how it's been portrayed throughout the Gamera franchise. But I'm pretty much with some of the other guys. I'm a big Baragon fan. I like the design. I like his weaponry. He's just a lot of fun to watch. Garen is cool, but also kind of camping. I think that kind of goes back to a little bit to what Mark was saying about how as the time gone on, it got a little bit more silly as it went on. But Baragon is definitely my favorite.
Daniel Miller.
I think for me, because I have the top three, I'd say. So top three because it's Gamera's ultimate weakness, cold. That would be Baragon. Then underneath that would come Gauss because of his supersonic beam, literally slices, almost takes Gamera's arm clean off. And then there's Guiron, in the sense that not only does he have that knife head going on, but he also has those shurikens in the side of his head as well.
Yeah, the little star blades.
Yeah. I think they, for me, would be my top three from the Showa era.
Nice. Mark.
If you can't get better than a big knife, let's add some ninja throwing stars to it. Yes, that's what we're looking at. I love that design. It's so fun. My favorite is Gauss. I just always like the design. I like the older Gauss, less so than in the Heisei. But I just love the flat design of his top of his head, very triangular, a lot of angular points. And I love the fact that he drinks blood and his head glows. He's kind of like, his obsession with blood is kind of like, he's like the Winnie the Pooh of the Gamera world, with the obsession with honey. Do you have any blood I could suck today, please? So yeah, Gauss for me all the way.
Yeah.
Well, they are supposed to be reptilic vampire bats.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Though, especially in the Showa era, there were like these vampire bats, but then in the Heisei era, they're more like scavengers. They'll eat anything. They'll even put if there's a dead. If one of their
they become more bird-like than bat-like.
Yeah, they're more like
they're essentially flying piranha.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the third Heisei film, they're referred to as Gaius birds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dan Miller, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to add on to Gauss in the Showa era. I like the fact that, I mean, of course, due to the costume design, they couldn't actually turn Gauss's head, but I like the in-universe explanation that he has two spines. And then they use that to explain that that's how he can produce the supersonic beams. It's like, okay, that's a good design, but how does having two spines mean that you can have, that means that you can produce a laser that slices through anything? I'm not quite sure of the logic behind that, but at least
maybe maybe the two spines is to help support his body as he does so, because maybe perhaps the laser would tear his body apart.
It's like saying having two big toes would help you fly.
See, for me,
I'll prove it.
My favorite is Guron. I've always loved Guron. There's something about just the idea of like these aliens having like this. He's like you say, he's an architect to Gigan from the Showa era of Godzilla, where he's clearly like a creature that wasn't born that way. He's clearly a creature that's been artificially mutated. He's like a cyborg in many ways because he's got a blade in his head. He's like, you see, he's got the knife stars. And I always, going back to one of my favourite scenes within the show era is the fact when he killed the space Gaius, where he basically just sliced it up, and then obviously
The funny thing is they cut out. They delete a scene from that to where he tries to pick up one of the slices he cut, and he was getting ready to eat it, but then he drops it because it was too smelly.
That whole thing was completely removed in the dub, so what's left is just a laser reflecting off of Guiron's head and then slicing off his foot, then Garrus just leaves.
Oh,
And
yeah,
also,
that's true. That did happen.
Yeah, there is a scene, isn't there, where Gaius, you see him hopping.
Yeah, he hops and then
Yeah.
he flies away, whereas
One leg off.
originally...
And also the first battle in the original Pacific Rim, the kaiju they fight called Knifehead. There's no way that wasn't Guiron directly inspired.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Even I think that.
Yep.
But the Showa era, it was a mixture of, like Anubis says, it's not as light and friendly as they think. There is some real dark elements to it. And the one thing I see about Gamera, for me personally, earlier this year we did an anniversary special for Anguirus, who, it was his anniversary as well. So we did an anniversary special for Gearus. And I've always said with him, he was the ultimate underdog of the kaijus. Like he's like that little dog that no matter if he's cornered in the corner, he's gonna keep going till he's run out of breath. And when I think of Gamera, I think a similar personalities to that in Anguirus, where he will just do everything and keep fighting, even if he gets his arm blown off, even if he's stabbed in the chest and there's blood splattering. He always finds a way to pull himself around and then keep fighting. So that's something I've always kind of enjoyed about the Gamera character. And it's also something that I've took in my own personal life, where when the going gets tough, you've just got to pick yourself up and keep going. And that's something that I actually learned through Gamera and like partly some of the stuff within the kaiju genre and obviously other films with hidden messages similar to that. But the Showa era definitely has its good points and its bad points. But let's now talk about the Heisei era. This for me, like, there's more Heisei era Godzilla movies, and it's a constant story. There are little Easter eggs and links to each film. But what I love about the Heisei era trilogy with Gamera, for me, this is more darker, it's more toned for adults. And for me, even though I love Godzilla, I think the Gamera trilogy in this Heisei era was a better bunch of films.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
the Heisei era Gamera is by far superior compared to the Heisei Godzilla film.
And with half the budget of
Yeah.
Toho. So, yeah.
Because it was all down to a good writing.
Hmm.
And the fight scenes were a lot more exciting, whereas a lot of the Heisei era was like a Wild West shootout where one blasted each other with their own beam attack.
Yeah. And with the smaller monsters, you could do a better scale of models too. So with a limited budget they had, they didn't have a lot of special effects scenes and at times, but they were all well done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So here are our three antagonists from the Showa era. No, sorry, the Heisei era. I'm getting mixed up again. The Heisei era, as you go, we've got.
What did he say?
He said, "Get it together."
Oh.
I'll swap jobs. So you've got Gaius, you've got Legion, and you've got Iris. Now, I'm just going to say off the bat, my favourite Gamera villain out of all of them is Legion. I absolutely adore Legion. So we'll start from the bottom and work way up to the top again. So, Mark, what's your like feelings and impressions about the Heisei trilogy?
It's a fantastic series of movies. I wish there were more of them. It was we got a really nice continuity. With the world was being developed, and the stuff that happened in the first movie, they were still fixing in the second. And we see the characters. The detective, the beat cop, and then who we see his story arc, his character arc. Every movie he's in it. Sometimes a little bit of levity, sometimes not. But we see the effects of the monsters on the people. So I think that's really what I was so impressed with. Guardian of the Universe was just really great reintroduction to the movie. I thought the special effects were good. The story was really well written. But then when it came to Iris, how dark that movie is, and the scenes where he's fighting the Gauss, and that the Gauss sweep one of the fireballs up, and you see all those people getting sucked up in the middle of the street. It is horrific, seeing the monsters from the human's point of view. That film is really that's a scary sequence. So, but it's a superb trilogy. It is top to bottom.
Yeah.
Dan Miller.
Personally, I think the Heisei trilogy is the highlight of the Gamera franchise to date. It's not just because it's a single storyline told throughout a trilogy. It's also because the tone is actually consistent, unlike it was in the Showa era, where they were trying to figure out which way to go in. But also, interesting enough, is having Gamera and Gauss created by the ancient civilization of Atlantis. I feel was the right decision. And I don't know if this is pure coincidence or it did play inspiration. It does sound a little bit like the unmade Godzilla 1994 from that element anyway.
Yeah, the plan was for Godzilla to be created by Atlantis, whereas he was going to be a monster that was kind of like they brought this dinosaur in, combined with a bunch of the attributes from other dinosaurs, and then boom, Atlantis made Godzilla.
That's right.
Yeah.
Another thing I liked about it is, again, they kept with Showa era tradition of having alien kaiju, but they didn't show the aliens, the alien legion as this diabolical galactic scheming entity. No, it was just an invasive species, a parasite that just invests and destroys every planet it touches, which I feel was a very refreshing take on the alien kaiju angle.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, the highlight of it was at large parts the opening of Gamera 3, where we have the flashback for the main character in that movie where she sees her family being killed. Then you have this really menacing design of Gamera. You only see it briefly in the reflection of the cut. Yeah, that is nightmare. If you were a kid in the 90s and you saw that on the big screen, you would have nightmares from that.
It reminds me of a fan art someone did of the GMK Godzilla, which makes him look even more demonic.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would love to see that version of Gamera versus a GMK Godzilla. That would be terrifying.
Yes. Wait, hold on. If they do bring Gamera back, they need a design just like that. It has to happen for a resurgence.
That's probably not a coincidence because that same director did GMK.
That is true.
It's true. But yeah, the Heisei trilogy, hands down, the highlight of the Gamera franchise, especially the first and third. The second, yes, I love the second, but to me, it is a little bit of a slight dip compared to 1 and 3. But they're great all around.
It drag in the middle a little.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being attacked by me cat.
You just can't get enough pussy, can you?
No, I've got 3 of them. But anyway, DG Anubis, your thoughts on the PSA trilogy?
Same as these other guys. This is the best part of the franchise. It's not even close. And I mean, I like the other films and the other eras, obviously, but this one was just so well done. And the weird thing is, much like the Heisei Godzilla stuff, I missed it during the 90s. I didn't know any of that shit was out there. I was busy with my own life, doing my own thing. by the time I got married and kind of went back and started catching all this with streaming, I was shocked at how much of this stuff was still out there that I hadn't seen. So I spent a lot of time catching up. But when I finally got around to watching this trilogy, I was like, this is awesome, like worlds above what anything I could expect for Kaiju. Before even 2014 Godzilla came out, this has solid story writing, solid characters, emotion, and it's also, again, it still deals with it took less to deal with like the kid stuff and start making it more for mature adults oriented type of kaiju movies, which I really appreciate. I know some people are like, yeah, but it's not as good as all this. I'm like, well, I have my heart both there and for the serious stuff that we see now with like even -1. Amazing writing. And that's what I want. As I'm 55, so I want this kind of stuff now for me. Even if the little kids still want to go back and revisit all the other stuff, that's fine. But I love the writing of this. Each movie is great. Each has an interesting villain. So it's just incredible. And so even by the time you get to the third film, I'm just like, this is just so good. And like, they still make it to where, and we've seen this with some of the earlier films where we talked about how they weren't afraid to let the monsters kind of be intimidating to kids or any other humans. Like even with Girion, that moment where he's kind of like spying on the two kids when they're inside that little cube thing. That's just creepy. As a kid watching that, I was like, this is creeping me the fuck out.
Yeah.
So the fact that they still give you these intimidating monsters in these storylines is very interesting, because Godzilla doesn't necessarily do that with most of the material. So hats off to them at Daiei for creating this incredible trilogy.
Yes. Kaiju Enigma, Jake, what's your overall thought on the Heisei trilogy for Gamera?
I mean, like pretty much everybody else says, it is a good film series. You are invested in the story, even the human characters, good plots and all that, intriguing creatures. So, all in all, the first one, you're introduced and explained how Gamera came to be. He was created because the Atlanteans created Gauss, and it overrun their population, so they needed to create a hero or a savior for the universe to stop these creatures. So,
Mind, I love that scene. Sorry, there's one scene I'll mention that I loved, and I think it is the third one. Where they discover Gamera was created by the Atlanteans, and you've got the Gamera graveyard.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, that is. And then obviously Gamera was the one experiment or whatever that survived or was successful. I was totally blown away by that.
Yep. And, you have the second one where the story continues, but you're introduced to these new people who are like meteorologists or weather tech people. And then the Legion, and as you can see here, arrive. And, that was
what... show off your shit, don't you? That's all you're doing.
That's the only reason he comes on the streams is to flaunt his shit.
Like every 5 seconds, and they've got these amazing.
Yeah.
Look at me.
It's like product placement. Here's Pepsi. Like this with Gamera, it's Pepsi.
Well, I could be doing
this stream is brought to you by Steelberg.
Pepsi, drink to all children.
Just one thing to add
I'll
on.
raise you the Revotech.
Nice. One thing to add on is that in the second film, the subway scene, that was brilliantly filmed. From the moment the train stops, there's this build up. We don't know what's going on. Then when they open the door to the conductor's train, all we just see is his hand and this blood splat going on the mirror. And it's just all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. And then you have the third one, which is more of a revenge story because this girl hates Gamera for what had happened to her when she was a child, but she didn't understand at the time what actually was going on. She thought Gamera just killed her parents for no apparent reason, when in fact he was actually fighting the Gauss. And then she finds the same like similar medallion, I guess is the best way to call it to bond with Iris, or the Rio Seicho as it's technically called in the film. Uh, it was just a good one. And for Gamera to sit here, blow his freaking hand off, and then grab the energy and just stick it through Iris, causing him to explode. I mean, that was just pure
And I will
magic.
say real quickly, I do like how they've changed the way that he does his fire later on, like the bursts. Like I really enjoy that over the just like the fire part. I really like the burst. I think
It's
that's
like
really
an
cool.
evolution. It's like an evolution for each film, where you keep and it comes across like a natural evolution of like his fire blast. Where obviously Godzilla, for each film, they try to find a way to make it big and like a spectacle. They try. Where for me, I feel like Gamera's evolution throughout the trilogy was a natural progression, and for each film he's having to evolve or change certain things to combat the latest threat.
Yep.
Well, it's also because the ability that allows him to do that is plasma manipulation and absorption, because fire has plasma in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that and plus in the second one he had to use mana to defeat Legion and fire the beam from his chest, which I thought was the coolest scene ever.
Yeah.
So, but yep, that is my take on the.
Yeah, why don't you just flaunt that thing one more time?
We've got more movies to talk about too, so yeah.
Anthony Jordan, your like opinion of the Heisei trilogy?
It's the best of any era of Gamera, and I do hear the arguments it's better than the Heisei Godzilla. And while I agree with, to a certain extent, I agree with that. If I'm being honest, the one fatal flaw it has for me is the fact that it ends on a cliffhanger and there's no conclusion. A conclusion that could have easily been resolved had they just rewrote the beginning of Gamera the Brave. But it's still a great trilogy. I love the setup, the mythology, the ancient civilization. I love how the apocalyptic threat they made Gauss into, where they're just going to consume everything. Legion was a nice touch. The scene mentioned on the subway, which is straight out of a horror movie. I thought Iris and the route they went with that was also interesting, and just like how they revealed, like, oh, this character has a connection to Gamera, and she doesn't only feel his pain, but whatever damage he takes, she takes, so it really ups the stakes, where if he takes too much damage, it could actually kill her. So best part of the Gamera franchise, and it just has a ton of good stuff going for it.
Yeah. Gamera the Brave, it ends on a cliffhanger, obviously the Heisei trilogy, and Gamera the Brave, which basically became like its own thing, a solo thing. Obviously the end of Gamera trilogy, you have like hundreds of Gaios flying towards Gamera, and it ends. And then I'm sure I don't, because I've never watched Gamera the Brave for a while. Doesn't it at the end though? So doesn't it at the beginning of Gamera the Brave? Isn't he fighting the Gaios and then he decides to self-destruct it?
Yeah,
right?
but
takes place
it's not in the
30s.
same continuity, because like he's not missing the arm, and it's not picking up where it went off. So it feels very much like at one point this film was gonna be the continuation, but at some point some studio head just said, no, we're making this a whole new thing. It's not gonna continue from the previous film.
And
It felt like a reboot, an unnecessary reboot.
yeah,
Really,
and
because they're like,
I,
if they're-
hate, I hate the look they gave him in The Brave. I hate that one.
It's almost like how the second
Yeah.
Howling film was supposed to be a werewolf film.
He's the Minya of Gameras.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly. Minya.
And they named him Toto. And I'm sorry, but when I hear Toto, I
Oh,
think
God.
of the little dog from
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz.
They
I
went-
don't think of a baby turtle monster.
What that is Gamera's crack baby.
Yeah, no, they went like total puppy dog.
That's
you know.
Gamera's prom night dumpster baby.
They basically tried to, we'll be talking about it in a minute, but they basically went from basically trying to go back to the show era and appeal more to kids with
Yep.
Gamera, where they should have kept the tone of the Heisei era. But Big Bad Wolf, your overall thought of the Heisei trilogy?
So I would have to say it is definitely superior compared to the Godzilla Heisei series overall. The story is just really good. The characters were great. You actually felt the story made you care about the characters, and like what Anubis stated, when you could literally feel that girl's pain every time. No, wait, it was Anthony. Every time the girl felt pain, it's because Gamera was feeling that same pain. So you knew if something would have happened, catastrophically, she could die. And I felt revamping Gamera's origins along with Gaius was great. Making Gaius was like, you know what? We're going to experiment. Let's create these creatures, see what they do, and find out, oh, hey, these things are out of control. We need to create a countermeasure to these things. And then when we see, I think it was Gamera 3, where we see that graveyard of Gameras, which let us know it was an arduous process until they could finally get it right. I thought it was a pretty nice touch to just show like, hey, this wasn't like a, hey, first try thing. It was like, like they were perfectionists trying to make sure they got everything correct. And whereas I think you said your favorite's Legion, I would say my favorite's Iris, just because Iris was more close to size with Gamera and more agile, that she was able to bring more of I'm not sure what I would call Iris an it. It was able to bring more of a fight to Gamera that literally felt like he was in a fight for his life. Which I will say, 1999 Gamera design by far my favorite, because he not only looked heroic, but he looked menacing too at the same time. And funny, Anthony mentioned Gamera the Brave the way he did, because there was going to be a fourth film to the Heisei series, and it was going to be Gamera fighting this Hyper Gaius. Like, it was going to be like a giant white Gaius that he was going to fight, and the idea was he was going to die sacrificing himself to kill the Gaius. And then at the end, you see like a few Gamera eggs in the crater where he dies.
See, if they did it that way, that would have fed into Gamera the Brave, because they could have said Toto was one of them eggs that hatched.
Right.
Because I just did the research on that. I think it was a few months ago. I was like, holy crap, because I didn't realize that they were planning on making a sequel. I thought that was it. But I can definitely understand the arguments of that they left it on a cliffhanger instead of finally to bring it to a close. But it was interesting in how Gamera using the mana beam is what attracted all the Gaius to him, because I think the movie explained that Gamera used up so much of the mana energy that it awoken the rest of the Gaius, and it drew them to where that power source was coming from. Which is why he was in a never-ending fight with the Gaius throughout the entire film.
Right. For me, my overall thought of the Heisei trilogy is this: I love Godzilla. I love the Heisei Godzilla, era, and definitely the Heisei era Godzilla designs are probably one of my all-time favorites. I loved when he returned in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah after he destroyed the nuclear sub, and he was big eye, was bad, and he went off to take on King Ghidorah. Absolutely love that design. But one thing I'll say is I really do like the Heisei era Gamera trilogy because I love the writing. I'm with Anubis on that one. It was maturer, more serious, darker writing. And it shows that you can have kaiju films like the Showa era where you can just switch your brain off and just watch them and have fun with them. But I've always been more of a fan of the dark and more serious writing. That's why even with the MonsterVerse, I'm still a huge fan of 2014.
Oh yeah.
Monarch Legacy of Monsters because it's more serious in tone. And then obviously they're going down the path of the Showa era where each entry seems to be getting more cartoony, more sci-fi, more over the top, where I like the serious stuff. That's why we're quite lucky in a way as kaiju fans that we're living in an era now where you've got the MonsterVerse that's going down the cartoony, let's just switch my brain off and just enjoy them for what they are, big popcorn flicks. But then we're in the era where Toho are now bringing us more serious, fun, amazing storytelling Godzilla films. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And I'm hoping, like, there will be that's going to be a subject later on. We're going to talk about the future of the franchise. But
I will say this. They did find a way to still keep intact with the children aspect in the Heisei era, by giving them that connection to the girl because she managed to get this one item that allows her to have a connection with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And then even in Iris, when he gets a look at the girl after saving her from Iris, you get that slight bit of a scene to where it shows Gamera just have a connection with all of them.
Yeah. So my overall thought is the Heisei era is superior in writing over the Heisei Godzilla. And I personally, my favourite is Legion. I love Iris. I do think it's the better of the two films, but I've just got a soft spot for Gamera Attack of Legion because I love the design and like Daniel Miller said, I like the storyline how Legion really isn't like a villain. It's more like a parasite that's just doing its thing that it would generally do to survive.
It's like a parademon. Like their job, the entire species' job is just to terraform the Earth and then go and terraform more planets.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the design of the smaller legions, how they remind me of the arachnids in Starship Troopers.
Yes.
Yes.
You want to see arachnids, Anubis? Go and get one out your cupboard.
Okay, Anubis, go get us one of your tarantulas.
And you know what's real funny is that between Gamera 2 and Gamera 3, they released a manga, like a Gamera 2.0, where it's Gamera versus a Heisei version of Barugan. And it's an interesting design where the head area, he doesn't. I think I have a picture of it somewhere.
I'm getting ready to look that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting design.
Oh wow, he looks like a horn lizard.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like they mixed a Triceratops chameleon with a horn lizard.
Yeah.
It's a pretty nifty design. I thought it was cool.
The cover's badass. The cover to that manga is badass. He looks more like an intergalactic space creature.
Oh yeah.
Send us a link and I'll see if I can get a picture up. But before we'll move on, one more thing. Out of the 3 Gamera designs in the Heisei era, which one was your favourite?
1999.
Yeah, 1999, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, 1999 for me. Anubis?
I'm trying to think. Whatever the one is on the bottom left, that's the one I like the most.
That's from the
Legion,
second, I think.
That's Legion. That's my
Okay.
favourite.
Yeah, that's my favorite there. Favorite look.
Jake?
It's a tie between Legion and Iris. I like both of them, so it's a tie between them.
Mark?
I like the Legion, but I also like the Death Gamera from Iris. It's really creepy.
Anthony?
Legion.
Yes. And did you see yours, Daniel Miller?
Yeah, with the 99. That's both the main design from Legion as well as the nightmare scene from the beginning.
What about you, Big Bad Wolf?
I stated 1999 because I feel like they still find a way to still make him look heroic, but he looks super menacing.
Right. Let's have a look. Wow, that looks really creepy.
Like, it almost looks like an Oni spirit as well, if you think about it. It looks like a Japanese Oni spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks really creepy. Let's see if I can add it.
It's like a four-legged version of Crystal Lock from Godzilla Unleashed.
Like this looks. Have you seen that
Yeah.
before, Daniel Miller?
Yeah, this is tonight was the first time seeing it. I didn't know that he was actually in the Heisei era, let alone in a comic book form.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, I've actually seen other pictures like inside the manga.
Yeah, I think
Hey.
Kevin one of them.
He actually fights him, I think, on a iceberg or somewhere in a frozen area. But yeah, I thought that design looked pretty nifty. A good take on Baragon.
That looks more like Anguirus.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, all those spikes. Yeah.
Wow, it's a shame we never got him in the Heisei era.
Or even Gamma Rebirth.
I think.
Well, I'll say this
I
too,
think that
since
creature
we're kind of-
was. Yeah, I think that creature was actually meant to be Baragon, but for some reason or another they changed it to Zetus. What was his name?
Oh, you talk about Gamma the Brave?
Yeah.
Yeah, Zetus.
Yeah, they changed that monster's name. It was Zetus Gideus. I mean, it's.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Anubis?
I was going to say that because I know I sent you one recently, Kev. Is a friend of mine's band, Oxygen Destroyer. Their last record was actually based off of Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. So if you're into metal, this whole album is dedicated to Gamera films. So,
Yeah.
Kaiju metal, as they say.
Oxygen Destroyer is the name of the band, and my good friend there, Mr. DD Anubis, sent me a cassette tape of that particular album, and it's literally all the songs are tributes to the Gamera franchise, which just blows my mind, and I love the artwork on the actual cassette tape.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's move on just quickly to Gamera the Brave. I don't really want to talk much about it because it's not one of the all-time favorites. So we'll quickly just go around and see what people's thoughts on it. We'll start with Mark.
I really did not like the dopey look of the young baby Gamera. I thought it had a good strong end though. The whole like friend to children thing, the scene where the kids are all running the relay to kind of save Gamera to get him going. I thought it was done really really well and was quite emotional in how it was handled. It's like there was a depth to the movie that I liked. And if I was thinking, oh, this is a reboot of the franchise, okay, because we do see a transformation in the character as the movie ages.
It is included in the Gamera Heisei era box set, but I didn't think it was part of the Heisei era.
Yeah,
I thought it came out.
remember what year it came out.
I thought it came out a lot.
2006. So that would be Millennium.
Maybe they decided just to put it in the box set just to fill it up for the price point.
Yeah.
I have the box set of the Heisei trilogy, and it's each of the DVDs are signed by Hiroshi Sagai, who did the
Oh, wow.
big suit design.
Oh, nice.
And on the Gamera versus Iris, he did little caricatures of Gamera and Iris actually on the sleeve as well, which is it's one of my prized possessions. Yes, it's
That's
Well,
cool.
you know, I can send you my address when we're finished, Mark. That's not a
Yeah, while you're at it, send it to Jake so you can get the iris.
right.
yes.
Mhm.
Yes, so Dan, your quick thoughts on Gamera the Brave.
Okay, Gamera the Brave.
And
It's
I
a
mean
movie that right. It's a movie that, of course, it's a straight up reboot, and it does try to go back to the roots of the original Gamera, that being the protector of the children. But it does feel very disjointed for me personally. Especially when they introduced Zadus, initially I thought, okay, this is going to be a reinterpretation of Baragon, give us another Showa era creature besides Gauss, although he appears briefly in the opening before when the old Gamera goes supernova. And it's like, oh, okay, it's going to be this one. Then we actually have the Gamera design in this movie, and okay, to be honest, if you're going to reboot a kaiju like Gamera, then I have to say that this isn't a design to use. Or no, I mean this is a baby with grandpa features. That's all I have to say on the design. But yeah,
I always said Minya was a maggot with legs and hands.
yeah. But yeah, Gamera the Brave. It's somewhat enjoyable, but definitely not one of the best movies of the Gamera franchise.
Yes.
But not the absolute worst either.
Yes. What about you, DJ Anubis? I know this is your favourite. Don't lie to us. We know this is your favourite.
No, and it's if there's one thing that plagues this movie is that it follows an incredible trilogy, and that's really the biggest disservice to it, because I can understand like why they'd want to revisit the whole like protector of the kids and kid friendly stuff, but as a fan of kaiju films and the franchise, like when you come off of that big high of the trilogy, it's like, this is what you came back with, really? Ew. And as the professor mentioned, like the look of Gamera, it's a huge downgrade. It's like they didn't even care at that point. But again, I think it was all driven for a more kid-friendly audience than the trilogy was. So I don't really like it all that much. I'll still go visit the older films before I even watch this one again, just because I enjoy those far more. But as in the recent time period, it just doesn't hold up to anything that the trilogy did. And I always go back to Heisei. It's so good.
Yeah, I feel the same. Very much my thoughts. Jake Hall?
I enjoyed it for what it was. I like the design at the beginning of the film of Gamera. I thought that design was pretty cool. That the other design, the Toto design, it's meh. That figure that Daniel has, it just looks like he's like he saw something. He's in shock, like what a cat would see its jaws, just like, what the hell did I just witness? But
It's even worse from the side.
yeah, I like the design of Gidius, whatever the hell it's called.
Zetus. I call it Zetus.
Yeah, it has so many names, but Zetus. I like the design of that. I like that the fact that it had the frill like the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park. Yeah, I can speak it to English. I know I can. But all in all, it was a fair film. Not one of my favorites. I'll still watch it, but all in all, it was meh. So,
Anthony Jordan?
It's just okay. It's got its good points. It has some surprisingly emotional points, but it's also like you can tell they really did not have at least the full concept of the movie they wanted to make, and it does suffer for it. It's not the worst film in the franchise, but it's also never going to be accused of being the best either.
Big Bad Wolf. Right, you said a lot.
Oh, I forgot. I have my mic turned off. That's got my mic was turned off. I was not the biggest fan because going off of the Heisei trilogy, then we come back to this. Like when Anubis, it's like you gave us such great product, and then you give us this crap. And it's like, what? And also, I'm not the. I know a lot of people may be a big fan of like Godzilla Jr. Even some people may like Minya. Me, I'm not the biggest fan of kitty monsters. I'm not a huge advocate of trying to humanize a giant monster.
Yeah.
Like let the story or find some other ways for the audience to get sympathy from the monster that doesn't involve making a kiddie version of it.
Yeah. I think they also know that like kids and audiences, family audience, like little baby animals. You know, like if you see a little puppy or a little kitten, obviously a baby Godzilla is nothing like a baby kitten or a puppy, but there we go. My thought on Gamera, the Brave, me. There you go. That's all. Me. I understood what they were trying to do, but it didn't land for me. Now we need to talk about something before we move on to the next thing. That was very frustrating. It was very, very frustrating. Like, it was so frustrating. I could have punched whoever came up with this bullshit idea in the first place. And that is the fact that in 2015, there was another Gamera anniversary. So we were titty teased by the producer, the producers who were fed something which turned out to be absolutely nothing. Do you know where I'm going with this?
It was that scrap 2015, 2016 film that never was made.
Well, it was never actually. This is the problem. It was never actually a film. It was
just meant to be a concept.
It was simply going to be a concept trailer to rally up the fans, to give them some sort of, thing. What they should have done is they should have done what they do every year in Tokyo on November the 3rd. They should have done for Gamera's anniversary a short film. If they're not going to promise her a new movie, then they should just give her a short, an animated short, or using the suits that they still had on that aren't destroyed, in deliver with. But this is what we got. Now, when you look at that, you immediately think, it's a new Gamera film. It even says a Kazuishi film at the bottom. And they released that concept trailer for this particular short concept trailer, and it blew my mind. It felt like the Heisei era. It felt like an honest, truthful, organic continuation of that trilogy. So, Mark, have you ever seen the concept trailer?
I don't know that I have. I think I knew that it was out, but I don't think I ever watched it because by the time it came around that I was aware of it, I knew it wasn't like a real thing. And I thought it was like a fan film or something like that, which I was cool with, but no, I didn't watch it.
Oh, well, I'll send you a link to it after this.
Oh,
but
great. Yeah.
When
Thanks.
you see it, you'll go to yourself, why was this not made? It's so frustrating.
Okay.
In the way it ends, the way the trailer comes across, as I said before, in the Heisei era, the end of the last movie, you've got the Gaios coming and then Gameras. The whole concept trailer is Gamera fighting a horde of Gaios, and it's would have been the continuation of that particular film.
I'd like to have seen that movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd have been cool.
Your thoughts on the concept trailer?
My initial thoughts was, I was like, because I saw this after I saw the teaser for Shin Godzilla when that first came out, and I was like, there was the Persecution of the Masses teaser for Shin. Then I saw this right after that, and it's like, wow, we're getting both kaiju having their own reboots at the same time. This is amazing. Then I find out sometime afterwards, nearly a year afterwards, that that movie isn't actually a movie at all, but really just a little tease. And it's like, well, no, I'm kind of disappointed because that looked awesome. Not only did you have Gamera annihilating a swarm of Gauss in a single blast, but you also introduced this new kaiju that has this ability of creating these spheres that just annihilate everything, like it's some sort of telepathic ability. I want to see Gamera go up against that kaiju. I want to see that fight. But no, that's what's annoying, is that it was just a proof of concept thing just to generate some interest. It wasn't an actual proper teaser for a story. If there was a story behind that teaser, like an actual thought out synopsis from beginning to end, and it shows a main character who starts out as a child, but then as he grows older, he becomes sort of like the person who follows Gamera. That's an interesting plot line I want to see in a proper Gamera movie. Give us that concept, but realized as a proper feature-length production.
Mm-hmm. You know what I noticed as well, because I recently rewatched it. It feels like it could have perfectly fit into the world of Godzilla -1.
Yeah,
because of how it looks. It feels like it's set in it feels like a period piece of a Gamera.
Well, you know my thoughts. I hope they somehow find a way to make a trilogy out of the -1 series and bring Gamera for that third one, because that would be like the movie of the century.
yeah.
We're
all going to talk about that in a bit.
But if that is the case, oh, sorry, Kevin.
Oh no, carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say though about it being a period piece. If that is the case, and that kid we saw at the start of the concept carries on, then it should be more of a story that follows that character, but it takes place years and years and years. So it's not just set in one time. We're actually moving forwards as the events of the film progress. We see the world change, while Gamera is still around, Gauss is still around, and there's all these new kaiju coming around, and Gamera is acting more like this, not so much a defender of humanity, but more like this custodian of his own natural territory.
Interesting. So, Anubis, your thoughts on the concept trailer, which went literally fucking nowhere?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember really, really liking it, and I agree that it has the same kind of vibe as the Heisei stuff. So it's like, I remember all the hype everyone had for it, like, oh, they're gonna do another film, and it's gonna come. It's like I was ready for it, and then when you realize that it was nothing but bullshit, it's like,
that's the frustrating thing that they basically cock teased with.
Yeah.
They basically said, right, the hype this trailer, and people just assumed the trailer that had been released was for the next entry in the Heisei era or a continuation. Then Dai turned around and went, no, it's not a trailer for an actual film, it's just a concept idea. And it's like, so what was the point? What is the point of doing a concept trailer to tease the fans and then deliver nothing? And then what's even more frustrating, the next film we did get was Gamera the Brave.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted to see the reaction and then gauge which direction to go. Maybe that's why they went to Gamera the Brave, because they thought that reaction to that wasn't what they wanted.
Oh, honestly, the reaction was positive. They liked the darker tone. I've actually sent you it in a Facebook message as well, Mark.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, Jake, quick thoughts on the concept trailer.
It when I first watched it, it kind of gave me the Attack on Titan film vibes in a way of how the trailer design looked and all that. And I loved how Gamera just literally disintegrated all the guys with that one powerful plasma fire blast. That's what I'm going to call it, because it was not nearly as powerful as the plasma, but it was just like a big jet. And you see the Gauss's eyes just... And then you see in a city that unique creature that looked alien-like sitting here firing the spears, and I'm just sitting here thinking...
It's very similar to Virus.
Almost, but way different than Virus. Way cooler than Virus, I would say. But I was just like, oh, all right. And then, like everybody else, was just like, oh, so it wasn't a movie. It was just a... Alrighty then. You bastards. But all in all, it was a good concept, and they were idiots not to go through with this concept. So that's my feelings on that.
Yeah. Anthony.
Well, whoever made the decision to do this concept and not make a movie out of it, especially after the fan reception, all I can say is you deserve life in a federal penitentiary without the possibility of parole, and on top of that, no human contact.
So you're not a fan then?
No. The trailer was brilliant, and to find out, oh, we never wanted to make a movie. You should not be allowed to participate in a fair and just society for pulling this.
Hey, John, your opinions.
So I had to recover from almost choking.
At least you make some.
Well, anyway, so it was a very interesting, neat concept to see, especially because this came out around the time off of the success of Godzilla 2014 and Shin Godzilla. That seeing this, I was like, finally, we're going to see the big turtle back on the big screen. So not only I get to see Godzilla, but now I get to see Gamera. And seeing the trailer, which I just recently watched it just to give myself a refresher again, just to make sure I don't say any details that could be in there and I accidentally say the wrong thing. But it was definitely very horrifying just to see the guys come in to scoop up the kid's dad and just eat him right in front of the kid. Just imagining what the kid's going through. He literally just seen his own father, whoever that guy is, just get eaten up in front of him.
You're going to have fun with this, Mark, when you see the trailer.
Okay.
And then, like Jake mentioned, Gamma blasted Gaius, and you see the effects of the heat. Its eyeball just literally pops right out and just splatters. And then we see later on this Lovecraftian monster come out of nowhere. And it was such a neat concept because it had the attributes of many other kaiju. but it had its own unique abilities, it looked like.
Mhm.
So it would have been interesting to see that thing in action. And like Anthony said, whoever decided not to release it, why would you decide to make such a trailer concept and see the feedback was great and then say, you know what, we're not going to make it, after seeing that the fans were so eager and excited?
So I was just frustrated with it all. I was annoyed because I thought when I seen that trailer, I generally thought, I can't wait to see this film. It's a natural continuation, or if it's not with another reboot, but it's keeping the same tone as the Heisei era, and the fact it was a period piece set in like feudal Japan. It felt like it was like we've never had a kaiju film with Godzilla or Gamera like that, so it was unique and different. But anyway, after Gamera the Brave, we had a few years to wait, and the Godzilla franchise kept on, building and growing. We got the MonsterVerse. We then moved into animation. And when we moved into animation with Godzilla, we had a mixture of success. I personally have been very disappointed with the way they went with Godzilla in animation. But just like with the Heisei era, where Gamera had the stronger story in the more darker toned films, Gamera has kicked Godzilla's ass in terms of animation, because we then got Gamera the Brave.
Rebirth.
Rebirth again.
Oh, Gamera Rebirth, that's correct.
Get your shit together.
Get me shit together.
He's about to get some angry fans messaging him later.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, there you go. Look at Jake. I've got it as well.
Oh, and yeah, Anubis has his.
Yes. Daniel Miller, where's yours? Oh, sorry.
I only got this fucking thing.
But anyway,
You got Dopey.
but
Yep.
honestly, Gamera Rebirth, literally, it just blew me out of the water. It's like a series where each episode he takes on classic kaiju that are now modernly designed, but it also has quite a compelling plot that also features kids, that doesn't feel forced, doesn't feel annoying. It feels really well written. And it's actually written, I think, by the same people that either did Singular Point or did the Godzilla anime trilogy.
It was the Polygon trilogy.
But what I find very funny, the Gamera creator of the trilogy, of the Heisei trilogy, then went on to make one of the best Godzilla films in GMK.
Mhm.
Now, everything he wanted to do, the creator of the Polygon trilogy, that he couldn't do, he's now came to this Gamera Rebirth series and just knocked it off the park. So we'll start from the top and go way down to the bottom if you've seen it. BigBadWolf, overall thought of Gamera Rebirth.
It was such a great blend of Heisei and Showa put together, because on one end, we had a very compelling story that was dark and gritty, because there were moments where the monsters were literally eating people. And at the same time, we got the children being the main focus of the story. And it was amazing with how they had the kid, like they were just school kids that were getting bullied by American kids because their fathers were soldiers stationed in Japan. But eventually they find themselves being pitted together after these monsters show up and start wreaking havoc, that they are forced to band together. And on the other end, we get all these show designs revamped, with even giving some of them new abilities on top of their old ones.
John, as you're speaking on your thoughts of this, also give who your favourite redesigned kaiju was and your favourite episode. Because then...
Will do. So, I will say this. Each monster, in a way, got their own design, but still, like, for example, Jigger still got still had her classic design, but they found a way to twist it a bit and change it. And some monsters, they kept to it, but they added a bit to it, even gave them new abilities. So I will say my favorite design of the show of monsters we got to see was by far Zigra. I was super impressed with what they did with Zigra. They made him from a shark to a stingray, and it just worked very well with him. But then my favorite episode would be when Gamera faced Greeron, because you saw so much of the Heisei, of the last Heisei film in that fight.
Yes.
And again, the story was dark, and I like they found a way to play in space aliens with it. They made it to where each monster was a construct created by them for global domination, but somehow one alien found a way to make Gamera not corrupt. And it reminds me so much of Monster Hunter Wilds' story, where you encountered guardian monsters, which are monsters that were constructs made by the civilization, along with Arkfeld and Soshia, all designed to protect this village from these more powerful monsters until some of them went haywire. So overall, Gamera Rebirth, by far better than the Godzilla anime. And,
way better.
Yeah.
But I will say, I rank that one on all the Gamera stuff number 2, because for me, Heisei will always be number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Because we wouldn't have had that without Heisei.
Oh, definitely. So, Anthony, have you seen it?
No. So I'll pass over to Jake.
Oh. Jake, what's your feelings on Gamera Rebirth?
I enjoyed it a lot. I love the story. I love how they brought back some of the old school kaiju. It would have been nice to see Baragon and how they would have redesigned him. But I enjoyed all the stories. I love all the redesigns. Definitely enjoyed Zigra's design. Like BigBadWolf said, how they turned him from a shark into a manta ray. And I also enjoyed Giran's new design as well. I thought it was nice to have his mouth actually connected to his blade and all that. I thought that was cool. And I also like how when he fired his chakrams, he developed the energy and they would just shoot out instead of coming out of the horn. So those two were my favorite designs out of all of them, all the redesign of the original Kaiju. But my favorite episode, I would probably have to say one where he's fighting Giran as well. So
Anubis.
Well, it's been a while since I've watched this. I did do a review of the series a year or so ago, but so I don't remember exactly what episode I liked the most. But I think I still really dug the redesign of Jiger. I thought that was really cool. But I overall, I think they did a great job with all the redesigns because, like you said about Virus and the rest of them, that they just made them look more streamlined and more sensible. But that's easier to do when you don't have to worry about bodysuits and stuff like that. But that's why one thing about like what Legendary's been able to do with Godzilla that I hope that one day we can get Gamera and his universe on the same level is that with the technology we have now in the cinematography of CGI, what they did with King of the Monsters with Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra was amazing. Like it's so nice to see that, and so I'm hoping that one day we can get Gamera on that same level with seeing some of these other monsters that he fought, and more kind of like live action type stuff. But As far as the animation, it is the best. Like whatever they tried to do with the Godzilla stuff just didn't really fall. It just fell flat for me. So Rebirth was a nice refresh in terms of the kaiju animation. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like for me, what they've been able to do. You've made a good point there, Anubis, about like how with the modern CGI and not using suitmation, they're not limited on what they can do. And for me, this, even though it's animation, Gamera Rebirth shows you what they could do potentially with CGI with these characters in the world of Gamera. Dan Miller.
Gamera Rebirth. Now, as far as reboots go, especially in a series rather than a feature film format, this is fantastic. Hands down. The characters, the human characters, I actually enjoyed them for the most part, even if at some points they did come off a little bit cliche and predictable toward the end of the series. But the Kaiju characters, definitely really some great designs going on there, especially with Zebra, Guiron, and even Gauss as well. But what really took me by surprise was Virus's design, how he looks more like Cthulhu now than his original Tokusatsu counterpart, which I actually thought was a really nice touch. And there's also another thing I did like about it were the little nods and homages just scattered throughout the series, especially in the final episode where he's as Gamera's fighting the Super Gauss or whatever it is at the end. The kids go up to the lighthouse, which is a nod to the original first Gamera when he knocks the lighthouse in that movie.
I noticed that.
Yeah. And also, if you watch the end credits, you'd actually hear the Showa Gamera theme being played on an old guitar, which I thought was a bittersweet tip of the hat to the classic age of the franchise. But yeah, absolutely. Solid reboot, great character designs, really good animations, and also some very badass moves and attacks from the different characters in there, especially when it came to Guiron. I also like how his jaw wasn't so much a jaw that's just like a slit underneath the knife, but it was more like a pair of mandibles.
It kind of unhinged itself like a snake's jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you want to know more about me and Daniel Miller's thoughts on Gamera Reboot, my second actual recorded review for the channel was with Daniel Miller, and we did Gamera Reboot. It was around the time that the -1 trailer dropped as well.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. So that's in the Kaiju Connections playlist on the channel if you want to check that out. But Mark Justice, have you seen Gamera Rebirth?
I have not. I remember when it first came out, I was pretty excited about it, and then I heard some people whining early on. I think after the first episode, and complaining about it, and it was just not that I was listening to their complaints, but I just noticed them. But it was just something that I kind of put off on the back burner and never got back to. But after hearing everyone talk about it, I definitely am going to go check it out.
Just honestly, the animation is just so amazing, and you know what? It's what you would want from an animated kaiju show. You just want a story and just lots of kaiju fights, and it delivers on everything.
Oh, nice! Because I liked Godzilla Singular Point, which I didn't think I would.
Yeah, that one's okay.
Really, I liked the story. I actually turned out really liking what they did with Megalon. You know, when I first I thought, oh gosh, that looks so goofy.
It was definitely a step up from the Polygon trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah, that one. I mean, that third one. Phew. But
I will say the only fight I was disappointed in Gamera Rebirth was Zigra. We didn't get much of the up close fights that he did with like Guiron and Felix and Jigger. We got an underwater battle, but then it's like once Zigra arrived to get the kids, Gamera just blasted a fireball into Zigra's mouth, and that was it.
Yeah, because he was lured onto shore. Because the one thing that they keep true to Zigra is they keep him, he's more powerful in the water. once he went to land, he was so totally defenseless, but he was lured there via that signal. But he has just a little gif of one of the battles in Gamera Rebirth, which I absolutely love. And versus Guron, the new design, which is just phenomenal. And
Okay.
Guron is this even points more that Guron is definitely like the Gamera series is Gigan, in my opinion.
And
Because
plus,
he's more-
this Garen was
more
more
metal
agile.
machine than he is creature.
They made him more elastic, like he's literally built like a rubber band.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he's always bouncing around the place.
Yes. So the final part of the discussion, we're going to talk about Gamera's future. So as you know, he's continued in animation, he's continued in merchandise, toys. He's even now made an appearance in Gigabash, a well-popular kaiju game. And it's the first time you've had Godzilla and Gamera in the same computer game. So the walls are softening between Toei and Dai to potentially join together to do a film. A Gamera versus Godzilla, or even if it isn't a versus, something where they both just exist in the same universe and they have to join together to take on a common foe. But another thing I really think could be a possibility now that the Monsterverse is getting more outlandish is Gamera making an appearance in the Monsterverse. So I'd
I
like
think
your...
he could work really well as a what was the word I used earlier? Started with a C. Not contraption.
Counterpart?
No, not counterpart. It's like something you build with a purpose. Not like a golem.
Construct.
Construct. It'd be interesting they made him like a construct or like a safe. One thing I think we discussed this before in many video chats is that they made him like a construct as a failsafe in case Godzilla goes rogue.
You never know. But I've got my thing is because they've introduced Hollow Earth, they've introduced the idea of Ghidorah being from space. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that they could introduce another hidden kingdom, Atlantis, and having Gamera be their guardian, or once they're invaded or they become threatened, they have a failsafe, which is the creation of Gamera to rise to take on whatever the threat would be.
Yeah.
And that, of course, would lead him to awaken in the Monsterverse to take on whoever this threat is, alongside now the Alpha Godzilla seeing him as a threat and them having some sort of duel before they take on this bigger problem. That's an idea that I had in my head for the Monsterverse, but I want to hear your thoughts on what you would like to see happen if they ever do introduce Gamera to the Monsterverse. So, Mark, would you like to start?
I remember drawing a picture of Gamera fighting Godzilla when I was about 4 years old, 5 maybe, because it was the matchup that I had always wanted. I think all of us right there. Yeah, the Bob Eggleton picture, right? And I would love for the crossover to happen. It would be really, really great to do. I think Gamera. We know how Gamera works on a serious level. I'd love to see Gamera -1. I'd love to see the attention brought to that level of realism and that compelling of a storytelling. And yeah, why not bring Gamera in? There's room for everybody, and these kaiju are loved by anyone who likes monster movies, giant monster movies. You typically might prefer one over the other, but you know who they both are. You enjoy them, so I don't see any reason why they just can't play.
Well, it's like football, isn't it? everyone has a passion for football, but everyone has a team that they support,
Sure.
and you're always like, want your team to beat the other team, but as long as it's in a friendly, atmosphere, and that's basically like Kaiju or like anything. You've got your favorite Marvel character over other Marvel characters, and you want to see them collide or you want to see them team up. It's the same with Kaiju. You've got Gamera, you've got Mothra, you've got the Damaging, you've got Ultraman. You've even got Gappa, you've got the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. What would it be like to have them into the Monsterverse? It's the way things are going, and I think if Toho are really wanting to reach a larger audience, in my opinion, to reach a stronger audience worldwide, they need to not just focus on Godzilla and Kong. They need to introduce new characters, new kaiju that are not just guest kaiju. They're going to be world building kaiju where they could focus on and work on the back of them to make other stories with them. And Gamera would be the perfect opportunity. Dan Miller, your thoughts on Gamera entering the Monsterverse?
Now, I actually think that Gamera in the Monsterverse is one of the more likely options because, as you've said, they've established Ghidorah is from space. They've established that Mothra, Kong, Rodan, Godzilla, they all have their own cult followings, their own ancient civilizations that had religions in which they were gods, they were deities. So it's not outside the realm of possibility for them to reintroduce the Atlantis connection from the Heisei Gamera movies if they were to bring him into the Monsterverse. And I think that would be a very natural fit. And also introduce him as like another alpha or an apex predator that could potentially rival Godzilla if he gets too powerful, or if it's the other way around, if Gamera ends up being the next antagonist and Godzilla is the protagonist, or they're both neither heroes nor villains, but just alphas competing for a title. In terms of standalone outside the Monsterverse, I think I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I don't think they're actually going to bring back Gamera in his own solo reboot anytime soon. Considering that we just had a teaser for a project and it happens again, I don't think they're actually going to move forward. So I think they'll just do these little teasers just for anniversaries, I think. Which I really hope that's not the case. I do want to have Gamera have his proper resurgence.
For me personally, though, I don't see why a studio would own a property, a PI, and not capitalize on it. So
exactly,
they capitalized on it when they introduced him in the Gigabash games. They capitalized on him when they allowed him to go through. And this is it. Toho Games got the rights to Gamera and featured him in the Battle Lines mobile game alongside Godzilla. They've got 3 versions of Gamera in that game. They've got the Heisei, they've got the Showa, and they've got the Rebirth Gamera in the game alongside many versions of Godzilla.
Yeah.
So it dropped where they would never ever cross paths. But now Toho are seeing the bankability of featuring him, and they've done it slowly via game form. So it just makes me think, if Dai are not going to use the character, if they're not going to work on the PI, they've done it fair enough with Rebirth and animated series because it's cheaper to do animation than live action. If you're not going to do it properly, my opinion is Toho, do a Disney, do a Netflix, and buy the character for how many billions of Dai. That's the only other option I can see happening.
Yeah, but that brings me to another possibility, is that if they do continue with the animation, then we might get either a second season of Gamera Rebirth or a completely new, unrelated animated project. And on the video game front, Gamera did cross paths with Godzilla, Evangelion, and Ultraman in another video game called City Shrouded in Shadow, albeit they weren't actually colliding, they were in their own separate chapters. What City Shrouded in Shadow is a third-person survival action game where you are walking through the city trying to survive giant kaiju fighting one another, which I've only seen gameplay footage of it, but if you get the chance to play it, you won't be disappointed. Now, as far as live action things go, this is where I think that it's the end of the line for Gamera, because unless we actually do get something similar in terms of how it was made, like Godzilla -1, I don't think we're going to see a live action Gamera for a long time unless it's in the MonsterVerse. But I think that he definitely does have a future in terms of the video games and also the animated properties as well.
DJ Anubis.
Ugh, wow, a lot to unpack. While I think Gamera could show up in the MonsterVerse, I think it's less likely. Only because the MonsterVerse has a lot of monsters already, and so dedicating that much time to another huge monster like Godzilla, and that because obviously the MonsterVerse still has a lot invested in Kong, so I don't really see Gamera showing up, despite the fact that it would be like a creature from space or Atlantis or anything like that. I don't really see it happening. It'd be kind of cool if it did. But the other problem I have is that Legendary, when it comes to their writing arcs, are very up and down. Like they sometimes do very well with what they write, then other times they're not really hitting the mark. And I don't trust them to bring Gamera into the world with Godzilla. Whereas with the -1 stuff, now obviously we know that they're working on a sequel this year with some different monsters, but I've said it before, if they did a trilogy with this same director, I think it's Yamazaki, let him handle the third one, and it would be the golden opportunity to really set the stage for one of the biggest events in kaiju history by bringing Godzilla and Gamera together in like the third film and keep it serious. Like Mark said, Heisei did such a good job with the writing, and now with the -1 thing, it matches, it works. And the other thing it works for the -1 is that at this point, Godzilla is the villain. Godzilla is not a good guy. He's the villain. So where you can keep Gamera as the good monster and bring him in, and we know that Toho won't let Godzilla die, so that's not a threat because that's just something they've always incorporated into their writing for the Godzilla franchise. So you can both win by having Gamera defeat Godzilla, whereas Godzilla can still live on through whatever means possible. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the professor has a very good point. Like, I just don't know if I know Dai has always butted heads with Toho about trying to do this because they both have their visions of what they want out of that matchup. But I don't know, man. Gamera just gets set on the back burner a lot when it comes to kaiju. And, Godzilla is always going to be there. He's the king of the monsters for a reason. Kong is a big American thing, so he'll always be a focal point at some point. But Gamera, for whatever reason, and Dai doesn't really push him. Like, you said, Kevin, I wish they took that franchise a little more seriously because to me, even if like Legendary said, hey, we want to borrow Gamera, it's a big deal. Like if I'm working for Legendary and I know that like I can beat Toho to the punch to bring Godzilla and fucking Gamera to the same stage, it would be huge. And you think back
only obstacle is that have to ask Toho permission to allow Gamera in the MonsterVerse.
Right.
Not to mention
they're like a partnership. They work toe on toe.
Mm-hmm. Mm. But like back when they did, Godzilla and King Kong, that was a big event. You were bringing two iconic monsters together. So to me, why it is no one's really thought about the big picture by bringing Gamera into Godzilla's world. They've dabbled with it, but they haven't taken it seriously. And I think it's just a lost opportunity because right now the iron is hot. with everything that's going on with -1 and Legendary. So I'm disappointed there's not more talk between Daiei and Toho or even Legendary to try to do this.
Or even Daiei and Kadokawa themselves just trying to do a film because, as mentioned, the Iron's been hot for a while with Kaiju
Content, yep.
Content that's like they'd be forced not to put in not to take advantage of the opportunity before it's too late, because eventually that iron's just gonna cool off, and then then they're gonna be like, dang, we should have done it. It's like, well, no crap, you should have done it. You had the opportunity when the iron was hot, and you chose not to take the risk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jake?
Oh man, I mean, we've been wanting this matchup for years. Honestly, if it does happen, it'd probably be sometime after our lifetime. I'm just being honest. I mean, because they.
On the day I'm on my deathbed, I'll get the local newspaper. Godzilla will finally face Gamera, and I'll be like, "Oh, great!"
You'll be like, son of a bitch.
It'll be the doctor will be like, "Oh, Kevin, we're giving you 6 months to live. 2 months late, 2 years later, he'll be sitting in the theater holding onto an IV bag."
Right.
Out of that,
Like,
or
I
as
don't
soon
care
as-
what you have to do. You drag my carcass into the theater. If I die there, at least I die.
You're going to take my hospital bed in with me wrinkled, old, dishevelled body that is falling apart, and you will carry it up the stairs in that cinema, and you will put me in the front aisle.
Or what's going to happen is Kevin's going to get the news as soon as he hears, and then as soon as he hears, he's just going to die.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be like, ah, son of a...
So,
But
carry on, Jake.
yeah, we've always been wanting this dream match, but they don't want to listen to the fans. Pretty much, they don't want to listen to anybody, and they want to do their own thing. And fans and everybody's been wanting this matchup for many years, and they don't want to pull the trigger for some odd reason, because Gamera's owned by Daiei and Godzilla's owned by Toho.
It's because it's a different culture over in Japan. If you think about it, over here, if you, for example, years ago, you would never thought you would see Spider-Man versus, in the same movie as Iron Man. Because I do think eventually Marvel and DC will make a movie together, because they'll know they've done all this separately. Eventually, when the superhero franchise or filmmaking starting to drop in popularity and they're not making the money, which is kind of slowly dying off now.
Yeah.
They then can turn around and be like, all right, we need to do something to keep the money coming. Let's just put the difference aside and make a film.
Yeah.
And I generally think that will happen one day, but you see in Japan, it's a thing about culture and respect and honor, and they have so much pride in the properties that they own. It's a totally different world. They don't think about the money first. They think about the honor, the respect, and things like that first in Japan. Anthony.
Well, up front, I do agree with everything Anubis said. And realistically, what do I think the future for Gamera is? It's exactly what we're seeing now. They're going to look for the most low-risk way they can just make a tiny bit of money. Oh, you want Gamera in a game? Give us this fee. No risk for them, and they only make money. You want Gamera to appear in this? Okay, pay us, and that's just about all we're realistically going to get. I just don't see Daiei really gambling with any of their own money, even though they know it's going to be profitable.
John?
Pretty much everyone else has been saying Daiei just won't take the risk. the interest is out there. The fans are telling them exactly what they want. The consumers are telling them what they want, and Dai's like, nope, we don't want to give it, even though they know they're going to make a lot of money off of it. It's just like everyone keeps saying, they don't want to take the risk. They'd rather take the easy way out, because unfortunately, it's like even with the Gamera going to Legendary, the other issue too is Gamera will have the same issue with Godzilla, where he won't be able to be in the film for as long because they'll have to pay a certain amount to get him in, and then even with that, it'll cost so much money to keep him in for as many minutes as they want him to be in there. Same with Godzilla, same with the other properties they have to buy the rights to in order to get them in there. They can only have them in there for such a little amount of time because afterwards the budget becomes too big. But I mean, like what all of us agree on, it would be the matchup of a lifetime. It would be cinematic history if Gamera and Godzilla could finally meet. And I like Anubis' idea with Gamera and Godzilla doing so in Toho's -1 thing that they're trying to do, because that just seems more fitting with the kind of menace Godzilla's becoming in that story.
Yes. Well, this has been remarkable, gentlemen. I've enjoyed this, talking all things Gamera. So I have one more question before I wrap things up with everyone. What does Gamera mean to you? So I'll start with Mark.
I think just it's my childhood in a lot of ways. You know, it's very nostalgic for me, especially the Showa. I'm glad that I saw the Heisei when they came out in the 90s, and I was an adult then, so I was able to appreciate them. But I still really, really like, even though they're quite silly and the effects are bad sometimes, and I just like the Showa era movies. They're just something very appeals to the kid in me.
Yeah. Daniel Miller.
I think Gamera, besides being a competitor to Godzilla, it's an interesting creature as well as being an interesting franchise. For instance, okay, we have a dinosaurian descendant mutated by thermonuclear radiation. On the polar opposite, we have one of the most ancient creatures on Earth. I mean, that being a turtle, a marine reptile, but he's 100 stories tall and he can fly. That's awesome. A flying turtle. Come on. What's not to like about that? But as far as Gamera as a franchise, there's an interesting history in the sense that in the Showa era, it's meant to be light-hearted, but it feels like they can't make up which tone they want to run with. One movie it's light-hearted and it's contemporary family fun. The next movie it goes immediately into the dark zone with people being killed on camera. And it was definitely at its peak in the Heisei era, which I think is the best format Gamera as a franchise can work, as a consistent story with a consistent tone and a clear story arc to follow. I think that in terms of a pop culture icon, it definitely is a juggernaut, right on the same level as Godzilla, King Kong, and all of the other monsters of cinema history. And it is definitely long overdue a return, especially on a solo level.
DJ Anubis.
What does Gamera mean to me? It's hard to say because, again, like it's very interesting. I guess I would say Gamera means to me resiliency, because despite him being probably like the second biggest kaiju outside of Kong and Godzilla, and with the lack of like focus on him, like we talked about the fake trailer, the the Heisei era where it kind of got overlooked initially, at least by me. Like I didn't realize it was there, but despite all that, he is still so prevalent to kaiju fans everywhere. Like for everything that hasn't been dedicated to him, like it has Godzilla, he's managed to still stand out, which I find very impressive for a kaiju like himself, and especially when you have all those earlier films that are more kid driven. So resiliency is the biggest thing I can say about what he means to me, and it's just a shame that they haven't tried to treat him a little bit more with respect in terms of putting out more stuff and capitalizing on him. Because again, like I said, if you went up to somebody on the street and said, "Hey, can you name me a kaiju outside of Kong and Godzilla?" they would say Gamera. Like everyone knows this turtle. They just do. But I don't know, man. Like I really love Gamera, and like Mark said, like it was a big part of my childhood. So he's always going to be there. I just wish I could see more of him, especially now with more mature writing, back to the Heisei stuff or even -1. Like it's just a golden opportunity for these two companies to say, you know what, let's really do this for the fans. Let's try to do something nice, and for once in a lifetime, just bring these two together in some way. No matter what we can do, just let's do it. And so, just his legacy is always going to be that he's the underdog of the Godzilla world, basically, and I really appreciate that about him.
Yeah, Jake.
Whether he is the friend of all children, the guardian of the universe, a former pawn from an alien race, he will always be a protector, a hero. Wow. Damn. He'll always have a spot in my heart from when I watched him the first time and I got first hooked on it, which was the Showa era. I mean, and then later on, the Heisei trilogy. I mean, like Anubis says, he is an underdog towards Godzilla. I feel like that he should be treated a little bit more with respect because he does have a good fan base, as big or close to as big as Godzilla. And other than that, he will always be forever the absolute savior of the universe.
Yes. Anthony.
Honestly, I hate to sound negative because I do love Gamera, but just wasted potential. They have something interesting. They either never put the money behind it or just don't give it like the proper other studio support it needs. Why they chose to left the best part of Gamera off on a cliffhanger, why they just wanted to put as little money into the Showa films as possible, why they're going to make this awesome high concept trailer and not make a movie out of it. It's just one piece of wasted potential after the other, and just this series needs to be taken away from Daiei and given to a studio that's going to do something worthwhile with it, because it's just frustrating.
Yep. Agree 100%. John.
So, like with Aaron, Gamera was my childhood. He's like the escape you can go to when you need your Godzilla fix because you're just trying to buy time for other for new Godzilla content. But there's Godzilla content yet to come out, but you're tired of watching all the Godzilla stuff. You can go straight to the Gamera stuff, because Gamera's just similar to Godzilla in many ways, but he's literally his own idea, his own entity. Because at one end, we got one that's a savior of children, protector of Earth. On the other end, he's just a guardian of the universe, trying to fight all these monsters, whether they are abomination creations from the Atlanteans, an invasive alien species, or even just former alien constructs. There's something about Gamera that just makes him more than just this giant flying turtle. And like Anthony stated, he's just always been wasted potential, because Daiei would be like, yo, we have this idea we want to do, but yet they never follow through with it because they obviously castrated themselves instead of going through with it, because the fans want this, they know it. I think they just like to cock tease everyone, because like, hey, we have something that you want, but we're not going to use it because we know it's going to piss you off. And it's like that. But it's like anything. If you have something you literally put money into to buy, why aren't you using it? Because at this point, it's just sitting up in an attic collecting dust, and you're just wasting your money because you're not using this profit you buy to make you profit. You just have a display case go, hey, look, I bought this thing which cost me so much money, and this is where it's going to stay. Bye-bye.
Yes. That is true. My thought on Gamera is, I said it earlier on, he reminds me so much of the Kaiju Anguirus, where in terms of who he is, he's like, he never gives up. He goes through hell and back and keeps on picking himself up and going forward. That's something I learned at an early age through watching some Kaiju movies, including Gamera. And he's just a badass. He's just a badass kaiju. He's tough as nails. He's right up there with Godzilla. Also, I love the movies for its tones, its feels. Where do my thoughts are Gamera deserves better, like everybody else. Toho needs to buy him off Dai and actually do some good with the character. I don't think we'll never not see Gamera. I think he will always pop up either in animation, games, merchandise will always be released. As terms as his future in film, I'm pretty much, there's a huge question mark. What is going on with Dai and where are they going with him? What are they thinking of him? Do they actually know themselves? That's the big question mark. But I'll always respect Gamera. He'll always be toe-to-toe for me with Godzilla. Much love and respect for him, and happy 60th anniversary to Gamera. He deserves respect.
I will say this too. There was a dynamic between the two. Godzilla is an immovable object, whereas Gamera is an unstoppable force.
Precisely, and that needs to be seen on screen. But thanks for doing this with me, gentlemen. It's been a blast. I've enjoyed talking all things Gamera. But let me know what is coming up on your respectable channels. So we'll start with BigBadWolf.
Well, as most of you here may know, I've reached over 100 subscribers. I'm at 102. And so my plan is, in April will be my first live stream, and it will be of Cthulhu Cosmic Abyss game. As long as the specs requirement will make it where the PC will run it. And if the PC will run it, then it is a go. And it will be, if I remember correctly, let me make sure I got the date correct. But I'm pretty sure it is April 14th when the game comes out. April 16th, so April 16th. I'm not sure if it's not a weekend, then I'll do the weekend of that week. But that's the plan. Is I'll do a live stream. I'll probably come to you and Anubis to help me set things up, even though I use OBS. I may do a couple of test streams. But say if I can't get the PC to run the game, then I'll just do the first Dark Souls playthrough.
Anubis will probably be the best one with OBS, because I tried sorting that out when I was thinking of doing gaming, and I just couldn't work it out. He is the man to go to.
All right, and also another thing too. Speaking of that, Anubis, there was a seamless co-op mod for Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 3, and even Elden Ring. If you're ever interested in get the game, perhaps we can both get the seamless co-op mod, and we could play together, do content with that.
Yeah, I'll check into it. Still trying to play these other games I started. I haven't finished them yet.
But yeah, you and I still need to get together for other content on games.
Yeah.
Anthony Jordan, what's coming up on your channel?
Well, I've been taking a bit of a break due to personal issues, but I'm gonna hopefully get my Return of Godzilla-thon back up and running with Godzilla 1985 here soon, and I'm just gonna continue with that for the future.
Nice. Jake, I know you don't have a channel as such, but you're always welcome on the Entertainment Headquarters. You're always welcome on Kaiju Connections. The next Kaiju Connections classic Kaiju film review I'm going to be doing is going to be Konga.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely join that.
So if you guys want to be a part of that, you're more than welcome. DJ Anubis, what's coming up on your channel?
Still have to fill out a little bit of things for next week, but right now, Ghouls of Midnight on Wednesday, that Mr. Tony the Dead and I do. My pick for this week will be Innocent Blood, which we'll review and sit down with. His pick is a movie called Something Dance. I forget offhand, but that will be his pick. And then Friday, Silver Screen Savants returns for 2026 with Olvin and I. He has chosen Mortal Kombat 1995 to sit down and review. And then Saturday...
Not a bad choice.
No. Saturday, Neko and I are trying something new for 2026 when it comes to our reviews and of rock and metal music of 2026. So I'm going to show her some of the stuff that I've enjoyed over this past month and then let her listen to it. And we'll talk a little bit about it. And then, of course, by the end of the year, we'll go through and give out our favorite albums of the year like we normally do. So that's what I got coming up.
Yeah, so Mark, you run, of course, the Heavy Metal Horror podcast.
I do. Heavy metal horror. Yes, we can see us on YouTube, and we are audio on unsaneradio.com, which is another podcast that I'm on, popular on popular culture. Yeah, we're on a little bit of a hiatus right now, and we're coming back in about a month. We've got some amazing shows. We've got a lot of our former guests, and we've got Mark Bridie from Jag Panzer is returning. We've got Justin Biggs from Sorcerer is returning. We've got Doug Helvering is returning. We've got Tony Dolan from Venom Inc. is returning, and they're all joining us to be co-hosts and play games with us. We got 2 brand new games coming your way, new show concepts. We got lots of music to listen to, lots of interviews coming your way. It's going to be a great season.
Well, the reason I brought you up, Mark, is because my good friend and most of the time my co-host on my channel, Mr. DJ Anubis, his channel is the Metal Tavern Radio. So maybe I could definitely see you two doing some sort of collaboration.
Sounds like we have very similar ideas.
Yes. That does not look appropriate.
You both can touch tips.
yeah, we do horror and metal. Yeah, we talk metal, we talk horror, we interview rock stars. It's all good, you know.
Seems to be a common theme for metalheads.
yeah.
So that's why I wanted particularly you on this, Mark, to introduce it also to Anubis, because I think that's a great combination.
Well, I appreciate that. I want everyone to find me, you know, through Kevin or through Anthony on Facebook or Instagram. Find me there, connect with me. Yeah, it's been really wonderful to hang out with you guys, and I so appreciate the passion. You know, everyone's holding up their DVDs or their Blu-rays or toys, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I just love that. Exactly.
Yes, Daniel, what's coming up on your channel, Dan Filming?
Excuse me. With regards to the on the channel front, it's mostly silent, but on my other fronts, I am working on a retrospective video that looks at Godzilla 1998 and Godzilla 2000, because they both tell when you put them together, they both tell an interesting story in the history of the Godzilla franchise. And also, if you look at 2014 to 2016, you see that history repeated itself in the sense that there were two Godzillas in the same space and time, but on the second instance, something different has happened. That's all I'm going to leave for that for now. Other developments I have on the radio front, I'm working on some new short stories that I am working on, while also for the radio's original drama series, I've been creating some new characters for their show. So that's something I've been committing a lot of time to.
Yeah. So, Mark, Daniel does down where he lives in Cambridge. He's done a couple of short stories that he's read out on the radio.
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
That's
So-
Ooze Valley Radio.
Yeah, so
Very
he's
cool.
really talented. I've actually listened to 2 of his short stories, and he's really good. He needs more
Nice.
credit than he deserves, honestly. So well done, Daniel.
Thank you.
Yes. As for me in the entertainment headquarters, I am going to the theatre tomorrow, and I'm going to finally see 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which has had amazing reviews. I hear it's not fair at the box office as well, but they reckon it's the best film in the series since the first one. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then Friday, I don't know if DJ Anubis remembers, we're meant to be doing the next Into the Darkness, the Insidious franchise. So we're going to be talking Insidious. It's going to be me, Anubis, and Mr. Tony the Dead. I don't know if Anthony is joining me for this one because he's struggled to find links to the movies. Maybe you should hit up Tony. Maybe he can give you a hand, Anthony.
I'll let you guys have this one.
Okie dokie.
I'll be more than prepared for the next one.
Yes, because the one after that, we're talking all things The Exorcist.
I need my Exorcist 3 tag team partner here for that one.
Yes.
I'm Swiss.
Yes. So honestly, well, Mark Justice, you've got an invite if you'd like to join us for The
Thank you.
Exorcist.
Yeah, let me know when that's going to be, and I'll see if I can make it.
No problem. I'll hit you up with that one. But for everybody that's watched, thank you very much. Thank you for all my amazing guests. This has been the Entertainment Headquarters. This has been us celebrating all things Gamera for his 60th anniversary. If Dai ain't going to show him respect, the Entertainment Headquarters certainly will. So for everybody here and everybody watching, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and keep on loving all things Gamera. Take care.